Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 3 of my Forest Path series, and in this video we're going to look at adding the road and adding more details to the road and to the trees. If you want to follow along with traditional materials, check out part 1 in this series, where I have a list of all the paint and brushes and the canvases that I use. The app that we're going to be using is Infinite Painter for Android, and we're going to go ahead and kind of continue working on the trees, the edges of the trees, and the edges of the tree trunks, and try to get a little bit of a look that the light is shining on them, and just kind of add a little bit. I've covered up too much of the tree here, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the tree trunk back in. I'm using a dark brown, a burnt umber if you're following along traditionally, and you can just paint over the leaves that you've got there, but don't paint all of them. Just kind of make it in segments, and that will make it look like it's got branches around it, but it's also over some of the branches, and that just gives it more of a depthful look there too. So I'm working on that, and I want to kind of add a little bit more highlight to the edges of these tree trunks as well. We want to work on that a little bit, and keep in mind the light source is from the right, high and to the right. And so I want to go ahead and add a little bit more middle ground trees there. They're a little bit darker, and then I wanted to work on the one that's right in the foreground. It's going to be right there on the edge of the painting, and that's going to be your eye stopper. And eye stoppers are objects that keep the viewer's eye from wandering off the painting, and makes it sort of stay interested. Makes the viewer want to keep looking at the painting because you've added some interesting details to the edge of your painting. And then here I'm working a little bit more on the right side, trying to darken the tree trunks a little bit and add a little bit more detail to them, and make them stand out just a little bit more. And again, you want your foreground trees to be darker and more intense in color, and your background trees need to be lighter and less intense in color, and that gives you your depth. And here I'm just working on the ground that's on the edge of the road, and again, since it's a dirt road, it's not going to be real straight. It will have mounds of dirt on the side, so you kind of want to add little pockets of dark and light on the side there with kind of a burnt sienna sort of color, and maybe add some deoxazine purple if you're following along traditionally. And you just kind of want to give it sort of a shadow color there, so you can add purple or blue along the edge of the road. And you just kind of want to give the indication of dirt, debris, maybe some leaves, old twigs, things that have fallen down. So you just kind of want sort of jagged, rough little piles of dirt along the side there. And then you want to go ahead and sort of add some of the dark to your road, because the trees are casting a shadow across the road, because the sun is behind the trees on the right side. So some of them are going to cast a shadow across the road, so you kind of want to add that in. But you don't want it to be real flat looking because the road is uneven. And so the shadow is going to follow the contours and the shape of the road. So you want to kind of smooth those out, smudge them out, and just make it look like it's a shadow falling on piles of dirt and old leaves and things like that. So you kind of want to smudge the edges out and not make them so sharp. You want sort of softer edges. And here I'm working on it in the front as well. Now the front is pretty dark, and you kind of want that in this painting because you want the viewer's eye to go ahead and go back into the painting. You want the viewer to be looking, the eye to be led from the beginning of the painting into the back, the center, where you can see the little tunnel at the end. And that will just keep more interest, the viewer's eye, on the painting, and keep it more interesting, and give the viewer's eye something to look at. And that's kind of that will be the focal point of the painting, as the little dark spot, or the little light spot at the end of the tunnel. It's sort of the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, metaphorically speaking. And so here I'm just working on adding a little bit of the rocks and some of the greenery on the bottom. You want some greenery there, and that makes it look like brush. And here I'm just kind of working on the road again, adding a little bit more of the ruts to it, and making it look like it's an old dirt road or an old logging road or something that goes through this forest here, and that it's maybe not used very often. You kind of want to have that look. And then for the places where the light is going to shine through the trees, you want to add some orange, cadmium orange light, with a touch of white acrylic gesso if you're following along traditionally. And again, you want these spots to look uneven on the road because it's got piles of dirt and debris and things like that, little rocks and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of adding a uneven look to the road here, and I'm adding it where the sunbeams are going to shine between the trees. And so I'm adding it all the way kind of to the end of the pathway where you can see tiny little splotches of sunlight right at the end. You're not going to see a lot, but there's some indications that the sun is shining through the trees. And then here I'm just kind of smoothing it out. I want to give it, again, a soft edge, not a hard edge, because of all the debris and the dirt, the rocks, the things that are in the road there. So I'm just kind of smudging it out. And you can, in Infinite Painter, you can set your smudge brush to any of the brush categories. So you can set it to filbert, or one of the oils, the old oil, or any of those kind that you, or even pastels if you want to, just to kind of give it a smudge look. And that's one of the things that I really like about Infinite Painter, is that you can do that. And so I'm just working on that, and when you get it smudged, you can tell then that it looks like piles of dirt, and it's light kind of shining on the piles of dirt and the rocks and the old leaves and things like that. And you want to just kind of leave them in a sort of a uneven look. You don't want straight lines, but you do want the lines to go across the road fairly horizontally. You don't want them vertically, because then it'll look like your road is falling off the painting. So you want to kind of keep the lines that you've got for the road horizontal. You don't want them to get real slanted, because then it will really mess up the look of the road on your painting. So you have to make sure that you do that. And then here I'm just kind of trying to get that rocks. There's some rocks over there on the left side there, kind of in the corner, and I just want to add a little bit of some purple, some shadow color there to give some contrast to the light and show that there's rocks behind the trees and kind of in the foliage and all in the dirt and there's all kinds of things under the trees. But again, you don't want to add so much detail and so many things there that you can't tell what they are, and that everything is just too busy, and then that flattens your painting out again. You don't want to do that. You want to try to leave some details out so that the viewer's eye has some space to look around, and it's not just inundated with all kinds of little details that are just so small that you can't even figure out what you're looking at. And so here I'm just adding a little bit more of the shadow color closer to the end of the painting, because it's got more of a shadow there. There's still light, but it's more of a reflected light, and that'll be kind of a bluish and a purplish color. And then here I'm drawing the ruts back in, the tire ruts. And it looks like occasionally there's cars that go up this road a little bit, so it has a little bit of some ruts. And again, you want to kind of follow your 1-point perspective there, but the lines don't have to be completely hard-edged or straight. You want to kind of have a soft edge on them because, again, it's a dirt road. There's rocks, all kinds of things on it. So you want to go ahead and make sure that it doesn't look completely straight, because that just kind of looks like it's floating instead of being a road down in your painting. So this is the end of part 3 of our Forest Path series. And in part 4, we're going to add we're going to add more details to the trees and add some of the light effects. So if you want to see that, then hit the subscribe button. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.